All right, so look, the world is done with America, and most Americans are too. Think about that for a second. For decades, this country has sold itself as the greatest nation on earth, the land of freedom, the land of opportunity, the model that the rest of the world should follow, that the rest of the world should look up to. That story worked for a while. It was powerful enough to cover up the cracks. But the cracks are just too big now, and people aren't buying it anymore. Not the world outside of America, or the people who live inside of America. Nobody believes the story that America is telling anymore. Nobody is buying it. Let's start with how it looks on the outside. Other nations pay attention to what America does, not just what it says. And what they see is contradiction. America talks about democracy, but history has shown that it has interfered with elections and overthrown governments all over the globe. America talks about peace, but it's been at war almost non-stop for generations. America talks about freedom, yet its foundation is built on stolen land, on exploitation, on slavery. And the people who live outside of the U.S. can see this clearly, and they're tired of pretending that they don't. Now, in the last decade, this global projection of America has sped up. America has pulled out of global agreements, insulted its allies, and started pushing the America First message. Now, I know at home in America, this sounded bold and noble, but to the rest of the world, it looked selfish. It looked reckless, unstable. It said America doesn't want a partnership. It just wants control. And what did other nations do? They started making their own trade deals. They built new alliances that didn't include the U.S. Some even started making plans to move away from the dollar. And that is how empires decline. Not all at once, but step by step, as the trust erodes. And then came the United Nations meeting the other day. This was literally the biggest stage in the world. Every nation, every leader, every camera is watching. And what did America do? America's so-called leader stood up and called climate change the greatest con job ever. That man stood up there and he mocked global cooperation. He stumbled through the speech like it didn't even matter, like he didn't even care. And then the real icing on the cake, while he's standing on the global stage with all these cameras and all these countries and all these leaders watching, this man tells all these countries that they're going to hell. Just sit with that for a moment. Think about that. The so-called leader of the free world, standing in front of the entire planet, telling every nation in the world that they're going to hell. And what was the response? The world laughed. They didn't clap. They didn't cheer. They laughed out loud. That moment right there was the mask slipping in real time. On the biggest stage there is, the United States wasn't seen as a leader. It wasn't respected as powerful. It was laughed at. And that laughter is the cherry on top of everything I've been saying. Because when the world laughs at you, they're not taking you seriously anymore. You're done. You're cooked. Now, while the world outside of America is losing faith in America, the people who live in America are also losing faith in America. Look at the daily life we have here. The wages that we make have been stuck for decades, yet the rent and everything else is getting more expensive every second, every minute. Like right now, you can literally walk into a store with half a cart of groceries and pay more than what you used to for a full cart's worth of groceries. Like you spend more money on this half cart of groceries right now than you would have on a full cart of groceries not too long ago. Like you're working harder and harder, but your money stretches less and less each year. Does that feel like greatness, or does that feel like survival? Healthcare is the same story. Healthcare in America costs more than anywhere in the world. Millions of American citizens can't even afford to go to the doctor. We have people rationing medicine, families drowning in medical debt. Some folks won't even stop at the hospital because they know that a hospital trip could potentially bankrupt them. That doesn't look like freedom. That looks like failure. Homelessness. Homelessness is at the highest record that it's ever been, at the highest level that it's ever been. And it's not just cities anymore. You see tents under bridges in small towns. You see families sleeping in cars. You see people stuck in motel rooms because they have nowhere else to go. You have entire communities being priced out of existence because the wages are flat. And that is not the mark of a healthy nation. That's the sign of a system collapsing. And here's the kicker. Life expectancy here is lower than in countries that have less money. Like, we spend more on healthcare than anyone, but we live shorter lives. That alone should tell you that something is very, very wrong. And the world sees all of this. They see the mass shootings every week while America lectures about safety. They see overflowing prisons while leaders brag about freedom. They see billion-dollar disasters hitting every year while politicians argue whether climate change is real or not. They see billionaires getting richer and richer every day while the average everyday citizen has to work 2 or 3 jobs just to barely get by, like just pay the rent and to have something to eat. So from the outside, America doesn't look like a leader. It looks like a country in decline, and Americans feel it too. Trust in the government, in the media, in corporations is at a rock bottom. Patriotism is fading. Most people say that the country is on the wrong track, and you don't need polls to see it. Just look around. Talk to your family. Talk to your coworkers. Nobody feels like this system has their back. And here's the core truth. The myth of America only works if people believe in it. But the world doesn't believe it anymore. And more people living here don't either. And more people who are living here don't either. So who still clings to this story? The ones who benefit from it, the politicians, the corporations, the elites. They need the lie to live because their power depends on it. But the cracks are just too wide to ignore now. That's why America right now doesn't look powerful. It looks desperate. It doesn't look like a leader. It looks like an empire past its prime, holding on to old slogans while the world moves on without it. So the world is done with America, and most Americans are too. Not done with the people, not done with the land, but done with the lie, done with a system that demands loyalty and gives nothing back, done with a story that doesn't match reality anymore. And here's the thing about lies. Once people see through them, they never work that same way again. So I'll end it with this. When you look at your own life as an American, does this feel like the greatest nation on earth? Or does it feel like survival? Let me know in the comments, because the more of us that say it out loud, the harder it is for them to keep this lie going.